So I actually rented this car from Turo, and if you click the link in the description or click the link right here, you can save $25 off your first rental. And Turo is a really good rental service where you can rent a car. It's like Airbnb for cars, and you can essentially rent your favorite car or a dream car that you've been wanting to drive. And they're located in a lot of different areas. You can check the link in the description to give them a look-see. And they're an excellent service, and this is where I rented the GTI from. Anyways, back to the video. Hello ladies and gentlemen, this is Derek with Moy Sauce Productions, and we are here with another video. Today we will be comparing the 2017 Volkswagen Golf GTI versus the 2013 Ford Focus ST. We are currently in the 2017 Golf GTI, and this is the dual clutch. The Ford Focus ST only comes in a manual, which is really great for enthusiasts. Volkswagen GTI. This thing has a 2.0 turbo, inline four-cylinder engine, and it outputs 220 horsepower at 4,700 RPMs and 258 pound-foot of torque at 1,500 RPMs. Driving in this car is great. I mean, this is, debuted in 1967. It's been an enthusiast car ever since, and nowadays it's really just a jack of all trades. And it's great at hauling people, it's great at cruising, it's great at putting down that power and putting down that torque. Wow, Jesus. This new Mark 7 chassis, it's really, really great. I feel like it's giving me everything I want, and that the chassis can really handle really high amounts of cornering and high G-forces, and I don't feel much torque steer at all, which in the Focus it's not the case at all. There's really no torque steer in this car. It has a VAQ differential system. Now comparing these two, you have the Ford Focus ST, which has 252 horsepower, or at least it says it has 252 horsepower and 270 pound-foot of torque when it is over boosting. These cars are very, very similar. You'll notice slight differences when you drive both of them back to back for sure. I mean, the Ford is just really, really fun in the corners. The suspension is doing something really, really crazy to make it seem like it's not a front-wheel drive car, which is the one major thing and major advantage of the Focus over the GTI. Now, this Volkswagen GTI, it's multifaceted. It covers more things than the Focus does. So the one thing that's really nice is that it does offer an automatic transmission as well as a manual transmission. Being in this interior, it feels a lot more spacious. It's not actually volume-wise more spacious than the Focus ST, but this particular car is just really good in how it uses its space. Everything seems very well put together. The doors close really nicely. The visibility over the Focus ST is much better in the GTI. The Volkswagen GTI is a lot more comfortable. These cloth seats are really nice. They hold you in the right places, and in addition to that, they have proper bolstering, and it's not uncomfortable. It's not bear hugging you like the Focus ST is. Honestly, when I'm driving this car, it feels like it actually has more power than the Focus does. This particular car has a stage 1 APR tune, so that puts us up to 300 horsepower and 330 pound-foot of torque. Now, my Focus ST also has a stage 1 tuned from COP. It does increase the torque to around 330 pound-foot of torque. The one thing that I like about the Volkswagen GTI is that when you put the car into drive, there are two modes. There's drive and there's sport. And when you're being in sport, it's a completely different situation and completely different feeling than when you're in drive. When you're in drive, it tends to react a lot less quick, and in addition to that, the shifts are a lot smoother. So when you're in sport, it tends to hold RPMs and put you in a gear that you want to be in if you want maximum power at all times. The exterior. The exterior in the Volkswagen Golf GTI is very, very subtle. It's very, and anybody who is an enthusiast of the GTI will know what it looks like, and we'll see the badges. I counted 9 badges. Floor mat, steering wheel, side fender, brake caliper, rear and front. I believe that's 9. And honestly, the exterior of the Golf GTI, it's nothing to rave about. It really doesn't look very menacing. Now, the Ford Focus ST doesn't look very, very menacing either. However, it does look really, it has more styling cues and different things versus the Golf. The Golf versus the Golf GTI, the differences are very, very subtle. Subtle differences like the 2 rear tailpipes that the GTI have, and comparing the Ford Focus ST to the Ford Focus, it has the center exhaust, and it also has a lot of different styling cues in the body. The front grille is a lot more menacing, and the Focus ST has a rear spoiler as well, which is really nice and makes it look a lot more sporty. The Golf GTI is very, very a classic look. It's not trying to stand out in a huge crowd, whereas a Focus ST would definitely stand out. I would definitely give the 1-up to the Focus ST though, because it looks a little more menacing and it looks a little more stylish in my opinion. So I'll give that one to the Ford Focus ST. Moving on to the interior. The interiors of these cars are very, very different. Now, talking about the interior of the Golf GTI, everything you touch, all these touch points are really, really nice in the GTI. In addition to that, the interior legroom of the Volkswagen is just a little bit more plentiful. I believe you get an extra 2 inches in the rear seats. One little quirk of the Golf GTI is that within the glove box is where the actual SD card for playing music and also putting your CDs in, it's actually in the glove box, which is kind of interesting. Now, as we were talking about the interior, the few things that I really do like about the Golf GTI's interior more than the Focus ST's is that the rear seats fold down, and they fold down flat when you're sitting in a comfortable seating position. You have an interior that makes more sense than the Focus ST. I believe the Golf GTI's interior is much more compliant and much more standard. The Focus ST just has a lot of things going on with it, so some people might lean or steer towards the Golf GTI in that category. So for that, I'm going to give it to the Golf GTI. All right, so let's talk about the performance. The dual clutch in this Volkswagen Golf GTI is great. You can put it in manual mode, you can put it in drive mode, which is nice and smooth. You have different drive modes here, which you can get normal, you can get sport, and you can customize it to be individual settings. You can actually change how the diff works, how the steering feels, how the car makes noise, different things like that. So that's nice that you get those options. But the performance of this, what I like about the dual clutch in particular, because we have a dual clutch here, we don't have a manual. I apologize for that, but it's all I could get. So talking about just the Volkswagen Golf GTI in general, you have the ability to get the car that you want for people who know how to drive stick, for people who don't know how to drive stick. That's what I really like about the Volkswagen Golf GTI, is that it's for everyone. I mean, you're not missing out on anybody. You can deal with a older person who has, you know, knee problems and doesn't want to have to deal with, you know, driving a stick shift. And you can deal with people who are first learning how to drive stick and car enthusiasts who like to drive stick shift. Ooh, it's fast. Ooh, it's fast. Those shifts are so quick too. For the money, I don't think you can beat it, especially with the dual clutch. However, since I am an enthusiast and I do like driving stick shift, I would, in my opinion, dynamics wise, it is more fun to drive the Ford Focus ST. And the reason is it's more fun in the corners. This car is very, very balanced, but you know it's front wheel drive. That's probably the one big difference between these two cars. The Ford Focus ST tries its best, and at the limit of traction and handling is the only time that you can tell the difference and you can tell that it's front wheel drive. However, when you're driving into corners, the suspension, the brake setup with the brake vectoring is pulling the tail around every single corner, and that's just something you don't get in the Volkswagen GTI. High-speed stability, I'd definitely rather be in the Volkswagen Golf GTI. It definitely feels more stable at high speeds, and in the turns, it definitely feels more compliant. And in addition to that, the suspension setup, I believe, is slightly better in that it feels firm and it feels safe. Whereas the Focus ST seems like it's bouncing around a little bit more. It's a little less refined, and the interior noise of the Volkswagen Golf GTI is not as loud as the Ford Focus ST. One of the major differences between these two cars is the Volkswagen Golf GTI has a slightly bigger turbo than the Ford Focus does. The Focus ST has a very, very small turbocharger, so at lower speeds you get that immediate response. I'm in second gear, I'm in manual mode. Okay, here's me flooring it. Now is when I'm going. So it takes a little while for the Volkswagen Golf GTI to spool up and to actually give you that initial push or that initial shove. The Focus ST is waiting for you, essentially spooling, and then when you floor it, it just goes. In the Volkswagen Golf GTI, you have more top ends than you have low ends. You do have that torque, but the responsiveness is just slightly different. And I'm talking about feel. These are both electronic steering racks, and on center and in turns, they're very, very good. Very, very close and very difficult to judge. However, I'm gonna give this to the Ford Focus ST because it's just more fun. There's no metric behind it. It's just the feeling of you having more fun. And like I said, the steering feel on these cars are both pretty numb. You can't really tell what's going on. The best hatchback out of these is the Volkswagen Golf GTI.